Hello everyone. Today, let us discuss the most important current affairs of 19th of June. So the first article is, no demand for virtual session, says the Lok Sabha Speaker. So Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla has mentioned that the standing committees have not demanded for a private meeting session or a virtual session. Also, the rule number 266 of the conduct of business in Lok Sabha says that committees should meet in private, because the standing committees operate beyond party lines and hence should hold private meetings. Talking about the other important points mentioned in the article, currently there are 543 seats in the Lok Sabha. You'll be surprised to know that it is based on the 1971 census. In 2001, the delimitation exercise was delayed until 2026. Delimitation means the redrawing the boundary of constituencies. It was supposed to be done after every census, but unfortunately has not happened. The argument given by the South Indian states to oppose the delimitation in 2001 was that their population is lesser than the North Indian states and thus they will be poorly represented. So the government wanted that no state should bear the brunt of their population planning, and hence the delimitation was delayed until 2026, when the growth rate of the South India is expected to come at par with the rest of India. In 2026, the delimitation exercise will be based on the 2021 census. Let us have a look at the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. The Speaker of the Lok Sabha is a constitutional position. The Speaker should be member of the Lok Sabha. It has been mentioned in the Constitution. He should be nominated by the ruling party, although informal consultation is done with other parties and groups. No specific qualifications have been prescribed in the Constitution regarding the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, although the person should be very well versed with the proceedings of the House. The election is done by a simple majority of the members present and voting. The Speaker of the Lok Sabha is eligible for a re-election. The term is 5 years, although in case of dissolution, he continues to hold office until the newly elected Lok Sabha meets. The Speaker of the Lok Sabha presides over the joint sitting of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. It is interesting to note that the joint sitting is summoned by the President of India. Now let's talk about the removal. So, the removal of the Speaker of Lok Sabha can be done in either of the three ways. He can be disqualified under the Representation of Peoples Act 1951. He can be removed by 50% of the House present and voting, that is, by effective majority of the House, or he can tender his resignation to the Deputy Speaker. Other functions of Lok Sabha include him being the final interpreter of the rules of procedure and the conduct of business of the Lok Sabha. The Speaker of Lok Sabha can suspend the meeting in absence of a quorum. Quorum is the minimum number of people required for the proceedings of the House to begin. For Lok Sabha, it is 1/10 of the total strength of the House. The Speaker of Lok Sabha also has a casting vote, which means in case there is a tie between the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha in a joint session on a particular bill, the vote of the Lok Sabha Speaker shall break the tie in favor of the House for which it votes. Next, he decides whether a bill is a money bill or not. You may know that money bill is introduced only in the Lok Sabha. Before being presented, it needs the assent of the President. The Lok Sabha Speaker is the ex officio chairman of the Indian Parliamentary Group IPG, which is a link between the Parliament of India and the various parliaments of the world. Let's move to the next article. It talks about the sale of illegal HTBT cotton seeds doubling. So what is HTBT cotton seed? It stands for herbicide tolerant biotechnology cotton. It is a genetically modified version of cotton, but a herbicide tolerant one. It is interesting to note that BT cotton is the only transgenic crop approved by the Center for Commercial Cultivation. So this herbicide tolerant BT cotton is illegal, but the sale has doubled as mentioned in the article. The illegal seed packets has more than doubled from 30 lakh last year to 75 lakh this year. Now, what are the issues associated with it? So the herbicide means it is used to kill unwanted plants. A herbicide-tolerant cotton ensures that only the surrounding unwanted weeds and plants are killed and the crop is not affected. But the chemical used as a herbicide, that is glyphosate, is actually carcinogenic. Other problem associated with it is that pollination can cause the spread of herbicide resistance to nearby plants, creating super weeds, which will then be tolerant to herbicides and hence very difficult to kill. The BT cotton, which is the only transgenic crop approved by the center, was given a consent of commercial cultivation because it is genetically modified to produce insecticide against bollworm, which is a common pest infecting the cotton crops. The next article talks about the maiden Indian Navy and the European Union Naval Force exercise that began in Gulf of Aden. So on this map you can see the Gulf of Aden. It lies in the west of Indian Ocean. You can see Gulf of Aden lies between Yemen and Somalia. This narrow water strip is the Bab el-Mandeb. This is a strait. A strait is a narrow waterway between two landmasses. The exercise that is being conducted is known as UNAV-4. INS Trikand is participating in the exercise. The next topic is about the illegal encroachment in the Aravallis, which is being checked. Yesterday there was a news about a slum dweller who committed suicide because the illegal encroachments and the slums were being driven away from the Aravalli area. Today there was an article that some illegal farmhouses were also being removed. So we must take this opportunity to learn about the Aravalli Hills. Aravallis are the oldest range of fold mountains in India. One must remember that the Himalayas are the young fold mountains of India. The Aravallis lie in the northwestern India. The length of Aravallis is approximately 670 kilometers. Compared to the Himalayas run for a distance of 2400 kilometers. Aravallis run in a southwestern direction. Starting near Delhi, it passes through Haryana and Rajasthan, ending in Gujarat. The highest peak of Aravalli is Guru Shikhar. Copper and other minerals are mined from the Aravallis, and this mining dates back to the Indus Valley civilization, where Kalibangan, which is now a town in Rajasthan, also had huge deposits of copper. Let us know what fold mountains are. When two tectonic plates move towards each other, they give rise to a fold mountain. It is as simple as that. Himalayas are young fold mountains and hence they are still increasing in height. Last year in December, there was a report that China and Nepal have jointly measured the height, and the height is now 8848.86 meters. So there was an increase of 0.86 meters in the height of Himalayas, and it is still growing. Let's have a look at the map and let's locate Aravalli. So this is the Aravalli region. Now this news is not directly related to the UPSC, but I couldn't help mentioning the famous Milkha Singh, who is known as the Flying Sikh. He is no more. He was an army man and he represented India in the Rome Olympics in 1960 and won a bronze. Milkha Singh will always be remembered as the first sporting star of independent India. There was this news about the High Court adjourning a habeas corpus plea. So let's have a look at what is a habeas corpus plea. Habeas corpus is one of the writs guaranteed by the Constitution of India. In Article 32 for the Supreme Court and Article 226 for the High Court, the Constitution allows constitutional remedies against the violation of fundamental rights. Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar called the Article 32 as the heart and soul of the Constitution. What are writs? Writs are written orders of the Supreme Court and the High Court. There are 5 types of writs: habeas corpus, mandamus, certiorari, quo warranto, and prohibition. Habeas corpus is issued against unlawful detention, mandamus to order a public officer to resume work, certiorari to transfer a case or trash an order, Quo warranto, in which a court inquires into the legality of claim of a person to a public office. Prohibition, in which the court, having a higher authority or position, prohibits a lower court from overstepping the jurisdiction. Now let's have a look at each of the writs in detail. Habeas corpus, as I have already mentioned, is about unlawful detention. It is a Latin word which means to have the body of. It can be issued against both private and public authority. It cannot be issued when contempt of court proceedings are underway. Mandamus literally stands for we command. It is only issued against public body, inferior courts, tribunals, or the government. It is used to order the public official who has failed or refused to do his duty to resume work. Quo warranto literally means by what authority or warrant. It is used to prevent illegal usurpation of public office. The court inquires into the legality of a claim of a person to the public office. The quo warranto cannot be issued against private or ministerial office. Certiorari literally means to be certified. The higher court can issue it to a lower court to transfer a pending case or to make the lower court quash an order. The certiorari can be issued against judicial, quasi-judicial, administrative, or administrative authorities. The certiorari cannot be issued against private individual bodies or legislative bodies. The last one, prohibition, literally means to forbid. A higher court can issue it to a lower court to prevent ultra vires or exceeding its jurisdiction. It can only be issued against judicial and quasi-judicial bodies. The next article talks about how US Federal Reserve have suggested that by 2023 there can be a hike in the yield rates, and hence it has led to the plunge in the Indian stock market, and the rupee has also fallen. So the article talks about how in 2013 there was an event called the taper tantrum, when the chairman of the US Federal Reserve, Mr. Ben Bernanke, announced that the Federal Reserve would begin to taper its asset purchase. That means the money that was being infused into the economy will now be tapered or lessened gradually. This caused the capitals to flow out, the bond yields rose, and the currencies collapsed. The situation was particularly grim for the Fragile Five. Now this term Fragile Five includes Brazil, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and Turkey, all of whom were facing a toxic combination of large current account and fiscal account deficits. So now let us have a look at what are current account deficits and fiscal deficits. Current account deficit of a country is the difference between the value of goods and services it imports and the value of goods and services it exports. It includes interest and dividends and transfers such as foreign aids. Current account deficit is not always negative. For example, you can take external debt to finance certain investments where the returns will be higher than the interest that you are paying on the debt. Talking about fiscal deficit, it is simply the government expenditure exceeding its revenue. Both current account deficit and fiscal deficit are expressed either as a percentage of the GDP or simply an amount of the money. An important word that I encountered in the article was an eventual rollback of the accommodative policy by the Fed. So yesterday, when the US Federal Reserve announced that there can be 2 rate hikes by the end of 2023, they were looking towards a hawkish policy. And the article mentions that it was a rollback of the accommodative policy that the Feds were following. So let's have a look at the types of monetary policy that a central bank can opt for. The first one is the accommodative policy. It is currently being followed in India and was earlier being followed by the US Federal Reserve. When the central banks expand the money supply to boost the economy, it is known as the accommodative monetary policy. It is characterized by a low interest rate and spending is encouraged. A low interest rate means the loans are cheaper, and hence it fosters growth. Talking about the hawkish policy, which the Federal Reserve is now going to follow, it means either raising the interest rates or considering it. So any of the two can be considered a hawkish policy. In the case of the US Federal Reserve, they have considered it. They have indicated towards 2 rate hikes by the end of 2023. Whereas the objective of the accommodative monetary policy is focusing on the growth of the economy and boosting the economy, the hawkish monetary policy is deployed to check the inflation. There is a third type of monetary policy, which is known as the dovish monetary policy, characterized by low interest rates and overall expansionary policy. It favors growth over inflation targeting. The next article talks about the Global Trends Report, and it says that approximately 82.4 million people have been displaced across the world in 2020. So the Global Trends Report, which is released annually, is released by United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. The short form is UNHRC. It is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. The report has mentioned that Turkey is the largest host of refugees, whereas the largest number of refugee population lies in Syria. The causes of large-scale displacement varies from war, violence, human rights violation, persecution, to lack of employment and availability of food. The World Refugee Day is celebrated on 20th of June. In this article, the RBI governor has said that the focus on growth is the most desirable policy option right now, but they are keeping an eye on the inflation. We have already discussed on the 16th of June that the inflation, the retail inflation, has breached the 2 to 6% band and is now 6.3% for the month of May. In yesterday's current affairs, we have also talked about the two dilemma in which the RBI is, either to focus on growth or the inflation. So the governor of RBI has made it quite clear that the focus right now is on growth, whereas they are keeping an eye on the inflation. The next article is important because it talks about the takeover of the PMC Bank. PMC Bank, which is a scam-ridden bank. The Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank, or the PMC Bank, is now being taken over by Centrum Financial Services Limited along with Bharat Pay. They are entering into a joint venture and then overtaking the PMC Bank. The RBI has given an in-principle approval to Centrum Finances in joint venture with Bharat Pay to take over the PMC Bank and then open a small finance bank, or SFB. The authority is given by the RBI under the Section 22 Part 1 of the Banking Regulations Act 1949. Now let us have a look at what small finance banks are. So the small finance banks, as we have seen, are licensed under the Section 22 Part 1 of the Banking Regulation Act 1949. The small finance banks can take small deposits and disperse loans. They can do businesses concerned with mutual funds, insurance, and other third-party financial products. 75% of their adjusted net bank credit is to be lended to the priority sector, compared to the scheduled commercial banks, in which 40% of the ANBC should be given to the priority sector. The maximum amount of loan that it can give to an individual can only be 10% of its capital funds, whereas it can be up to 15% to a group. Minimum 50% of the loans that it disburses should be up to Rs 25 lakhs. Small finance banks cannot lend to big corporates. Small finance banks cannot open branches without prior RBI approval for the first 5 years of their operation. Small finance banks cannot set up subsidiaries to undertake non-banking financial activities. The minimum paid up capital is Rs 100 crore for small finance banks. The foreign shareholding in the small finance banks has been capped at 74%. So that was all about today's most important current affairs. Do tune in into the channel tomorrow for more relevant topics. Thank you so much for watching. You can ask your queries and give your suggestions in the comment section. Thank you so much.